One of the things we're going to talk about in this module is different places that you can find GIS data. If you want to be hot on the job market, understanding where data resides and how to access it is a great way to impress a future employer or an existing employer. So I think GIS data is more plentiful than really we could have ever imagined in the early days of GIS. Official mapping, surveying, a lot of the things that we use to make base maps, those still exist, but there's a lot of new technology out there. GPS is cheaper and smaller and more available than ever before, and so it's incorporated into many of the technologies we use in our day-to-day. You might have used it already just to navigate between two places today. Many of your cell phone apps are fueled by GIS in the background, so weather apps, shopping apps, a variety of things that you use are collecting spatial data all the time. And some of that is used to provide a better service to you. That data is also often packaged up and sold to third-party vendors who create products out of it. There's also a growing number of satellites that are used to collect data. Some of this comes as imagery. It could come as thermal data. It could come, again, it's GPS or location data. All of these different technologies are really creating a fire hose of spatial data that has made GIS more powerful than ever because there's so many different kinds of things we can do with it. One way to organize your thinking about where you find GIS data is to understand that most official agencies have some kind of spatial data associated with them. So you can kind of think of this geographically at the scale of kind of international organizations, what kind of international data exists, national data, state data, city data, and then I'm going to tell you about a really cool resource called the Living Atlas. So most international agencies like the UN will have data portals on their websites. So if you're trying to think about, okay, what kind of data might I have on tourism, or maybe I'm looking for data on conflict or on carbon, different organizations that are responsible for reporting out on how we're doing on a range of topics will have portals. So what I'd recommend is if there's a topic that's of interest to you, go to those homepages and look for where the data are provided. Sometimes they have GIS dashboards built right into them. Other times you can download data. Many of our national agencies, so NOAA, USGS, also have data portals, which will give you a lot of information about the world and the United States. If you're interested in looking for data at a state level, the types of data sets might vary state to state. For instance, we're in California, and California has a ton of state agencies that have a lot of data. So I think spending some time thinking about where you can find data and what topics matter to you is really quite valuable. One thing that we've seen a lot of growth in is city level data. So most cities have some kind of GeoHub or dashboard or web map where you can access a wide range of data on transportation networks, on land parcels, on many of the things that cities need in order to be able to make planning decisions. Additionally, there's a really cool resource that links directly into ArcGIS Online, which you'll be using a lot in this course, called the Living Atlas. So Esri is a company that makes ArcGIS Online, and they have gone about curating a huge number of data sets that you can now access in a really automated way. And these include everything from base maps to demographic and lifestyle maps, landscape maps, boundaries of places, transportation information, satellite imagery or Earth observations, lots of urban systems data, oceans data, historical maps. And the reason that Esri did this is because as a GIS professional, you often will spend 80% of your time, I'm just estimating, but that is my experience, about 80% of your time on any given project is spent finding data, organizing data, cleaning data up, and making it so it can integrate, so that multiple data sets can integrate. It's a huge time sink. So if we want to make better decisions more quickly, putting the data at people's fingertips is a great way to do that. So I would say spend some time exploring the Living Atlas. You can search maps and data on the Living Atlas website and get a sense about what data exists. And a lot of these data sets, the really popular ones, Esri curates on an ongoing basis and makes them available to you to use. So you can also go through the map viewer, story maps, or ArcGIS online to look at these data. So the Living Atlas data link to a number of the technologies that you'll be using in different modules throughout this course. The last data set I really wanted to highlight is the census data. So this is a little bit US specific, but most countries have some kind of census data, or many countries have some kind of census data that you can use to try and understand populations. And it's helpful to think about the spatial units that census data is linked to. So in the US, you can have tracts or block groups or blocks, and these vary in scale. And you can compare them also to different kind of geographic units like zip codes. So these vary in size and give you different kinds of spatial detail. But one of the things that's so great about the census is it allows you to look at things through time, because it tends to be collected in a pretty consistent way. And so it can be a really helpful resource, and one that's worth getting to know. You'll come to know census data through a number of the modules that we work on, but worth spending a little time if you want to be a GIS professional to understand the census data. So I think that just gives you a little bit of my hope is that this introduction to data gives you a little bit to think about in terms of how you might go about trying to find data. And as you work on topics that are of interest to you, I would say spending some time getting to know where you're going to find different data sets is a really powerful way to make a big splash in the workplace, in your research communities. Knowing how to access data quickly and integrate it and what's available will put you closer to being able to do the analysis and get the answers that you're looking for.